muka dawo suka zo suka ce mana akan in Allah ya yarda kwantar da hankalinku za a kawo muku makarantu in abinda kuke nema duka za a kawo muku kwantar da hankalinku.
Daman kun riga kun gaya mana da muka zo mun same ku mun yi bayani kun gaya mana complaint ɗinku ba ku da asibiti ba ku da makaranta majority mata ba su da sana'an yi suna zaune ba sana'a kuma shine muka ɗauka mun rubuta mun kai office yanzu an zauna an yi magana a kan shi insha Allah za a zo a duba irin sana'an da za a taimaka wa mata saboda ai empowerment ɗinsu su girma da kansu.
Wai kullum sai a ce za a kawo makaranta ban ga an kawo makarantar ba sai karya ake ta yi wayancan ma sun zo ba a kawo ba gashi wayannan ma sun zo.
To yata dama akwai taimakon da ina so nema a gurin ku maganan makaranta bana nan izin wannan asibiti kin san asibiti matanmu sai a ce mana wai mu tafi cikin gari mu ba mu sani ba sai ga mata in yana jin nakudan haifuwa ko a rasa yaro ko a rasa ɗa ko a rasa uwa kuma mu ba mu san asibiti na cikin gari ba wata rana ma ga ruwa ma a rafi muke sha ko ciwon ciki ko me ma yara an ce mana mu je mu sayan magani a can a cikin kwantena da ana sayarwa bakin hannu sai ka gani ba magani ba sai muna amfani.
To ki yi hakurin Allah ya dun wannan damuwoyin ku duka mun je office mun rubuta shi gaba daya manyoyin mu suka ce in Allah ya yarda wannan damuwoyin ku za a kawo muku duka ku yi hakuri.
Allah ya taimaka muku na gode muku.
To sai mun kara jiyowa.
Na gode muku Allah kiyaye hanya.
Amin.
Sannu. Alaikun salam.
An wuni lafiya?
Lafiya kala.
Ya kuke?
Lafiya.
Sannu.
Sannu. Bismillah. Ka kusa ka ne. Ai na kuma. Shi na ai na ji yara suna maganan shi jiya. Wallahi na ji yara sun kama labari jiya kan cewa wai akwai yaron da wai malaria ya kama. Wai ba abin ba su samu magani ba za a tafi asibiti can cikin gari kuma ya mutu a hanya. To yanzu irin wannan ya za mu yi ne wahalar mu kenan muna ta fama haka.
Gaskiya to yaya za mu yi kawai dai mu roke Allah.
To ya za mu yi.
Kila za su kawo mana asibitin da dama fadadin.
Allah ya sa su kawo mana.
Allah ya sa su dawo lafiya.
Baba yaya
baba baki ji labari ba. Ina wannan injin da suka zo sun mana alkawari to kin ji sun fara magana nan a gidan rediyo.
A'a gaskiya ne.
Ku yi shiru tukuna mu ji shi.
Kin ji suna maganan ku baba? Gaskiya wa'annan mutane suna da alkawari baba. Ikon Allah, Allah ya kawo su lafiya. Allah ya kawo su lafiya. Amin baba. Yanzu dai muna nan dai muna zaman jiran su baba. Ke wai baki ji labari wani yaro ya mutu jewa baba?
Na ji yanzu kina ganin muna kan magana kina ka kawo mana labarin nan.
Ikon Allah baba. To bari mu jira jiran sammani. To sannun ku da zuwa sannun ku da zuwa sannun ku da zuwa.
Sannun ku. Assalamu alaikum. Sannun ku fa ina yinin ku. Sannu fa ya aiki. Sannu fa. To gashi nan mun zo fa. Ya kuke? Ya hakuri rayuwan kuma. To gaskiya gashi nan an kawo mana sako ne. Mun kawo muku sako akan duk bayanin da kuka faɗa wannan. To mun je ofis namu mun gaya musu sun ce in Allah ya yarda ranar Alhamis za a kawo muku abubuwan da kuke bukata gaba ɗaya. Amin.
Assalamu alaikum sannunku mun same ku lafiya?
Lafiya kalau.
To mun zo mu cika muku alƙawarin da muka ɗaukan muku. Saboda kun mana korafi akwai irin waɗanda suke zuwa su same ku su tambaye ku damuwoyinku bayan sun gaya muku kun gaya musu ba sa ƙara zuwa su ɗauki hotuna da ku su tafi daga nan ba za a ƙara ganin su ba to wannan mu ba haka muke ba insha Allahu bi iznillahi za a cika muku muradunku makaranta da asibiti duk wannan ya kaho wannan ciwon zazzabin cizon sauro da kuke kuka da shi irin convulsion din da yake damun yara in Allah ya so ya da mun kai korafi kuma in Allah ya soya da za a zo a taimaka muku bi izinillahi. To
gaskiya mun gode muku sosai, Allah ya taimaka muku, Allah ya ci muku gaba, mun gode sosai.
To sannunku jama'a ina yininku, muna gaishe ku duka. To ga jama'an da suka gaggaya mana damoyinsu gaba ɗaya, dama mu muna zuwa muna jin bukatunsu. To ba su da asibiti a wajajensu, kuma ba su da ruwan sha a rafi. Yaransu mafi yawa suna zuwa ɗiban ruwa. To in suka ɗiba ruwa a rafin nan zaki ga mafi yawa jikin yara duk yana kaikayi, sai su rasa yaya za su yi da rayuwarsu. Kuma mata mafi yawa ma in sun yi ciki, inda za su je su yi awo yana da nisa asibiti in. Kuma in yan asibiti suka tafi, in abin da ya kama ko aifuwa sun gagara, in operation ne ba su da inda za su je a yi musu operation na mata, suna ji suna gani za su rasa rayuwar 'ya'ya mata 'yan uwansu. Ko mazaje ma irin accident da shike yawan mazajenmu direbobi ne, in wani abu ya faru ba inda za mu yi mu ɗoka a kai su. To shine suka gaggaya mana damoyinsu, tun daga sunan da gasa suna ji a bakin ku ga su, shine mun kawo kukansu ma ku don Allah ku taimaka musu. Mata ko ba haka bane?
Haka ne.
To kun gani? To jama'a dan Allah dan annabi a taimaka musu, a share musu hawayensu abubuwan da yana damin su. Mun gode.
To mun gode.
So please, can we have the interpreter? Do you mind? Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. But I just want to do a little translation for those that don't speak Hausa. We would have brought professional actors, because I'm one, but what's the need? We want to tell the stories of the people, and who is better to tell them than themselves? So while we wanted to coordinate this, we asked them their problem. They told us this is what they want to do. The only thing we did was, okay, coordinate it accordingly so that they could hear. What they simply said was, they had issues. These are true life stories. From people going to the hospital that is so far, before they could give birth, they might lose the child and the mother themselves. They talked about malaria, how it affects their environment because of their living environment. The accessibility of water, which was very, very difficult for them. And sometimes where they even get the water to bathe with it, to drink with it, they have scratches on their body, it itch them, they have typhoid and so on and so forth. So they are calling on to people because they have had several people come up to them and tell them, we will do this, we will do that. They take pictures, post them, but they don't see results. But they are happy. Consider the other women that came and listened to them and went back to their office, told and made some effort. It was broadcast on the radio as well. So they now believe, they now have hope. One thing we should do is that we should not kill their hopes. Once they put hope in us, we should allow this hope grow so that they can achieve their dreams. Their dreams will not die. So these are their own stories they are trying to interpret and tell us so that we will know that this is what's happening. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Jumai, for quick interpretation of what happened in the house. We go now to the next session. Do I allow you to do that thing? Come. I'll allow my co-partner to simply introduce the next session lead moderator.
So our next panel discussion is talking about partnerships and financing for sustainable IDP interventions, and that's going to be facilitated by Adenike Ayodele, who is the Director of Strategy and Executive Advisor, Center for Communications and Social Impact. So can we please have a round of applause as Madam Nike makes her way up. Keep clapping, keep clapping.
So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Great. All right. So it's been exciting conversation so far, and we're going to continue on this theme. I'm going to just introduce the panelists and get them to come up, and we'll talk about what we want to look at during this session. So the first person I'll be calling up is the health system specialist from UNFPA, Dr. Samson Ezekianyi. Can we give him a round of applause as he comes up? Dr. Samson Ezekianyi. Let's continue clapping until he gets here. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Samson. The next person on the list is from the Africa Health Budget Network, the Executive Director, Dr. Aminu Magashi. Dr. Aminu Magashi from Africa Health Budget Network is our second panelist. A round of applause for him as he makes his way up here as well. Thank you. The next person is the Senior Lead Advocacy and Countries Engagement from FP 2030. That's Yusuf Nuhu. Yusuf Nuhu from FP 2030. A round of applause as he makes his way up. A round of applause for him as he makes his way up, please. Thank you. And the last but not the least, we've saved the best for last, right? From the Challenge Initiative, we have the Senior Technical Advisor, Dorcas Akila. A round of applause for Dorcas as she makes her way up. Thank you. We'll just wait for Dorcas to be seated, and I'll introduce the session, and we can start the conversations. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. And welcome to everyone. This second panel at this all-important National Internally Displaced Persons Conference is looking at partnerships and financing for sustainable IDP interventions. You know, Mercy did a wonderful job earlier on giving us the statistics from the International Organization for Migration, and we see that we have over 3.2 million internally displaced persons in Nigeria, over 80% of which are women and girls. And so in this session, we understand that for us to address the challenges in IDP communities, we need stronger collaboration and coordination among government agencies, international NGOs, UN organizations, and local partners. And, you know, one of the comments earlier on started to touch on what we're going to be discussing when she talked about the fact that our efforts sometimes are siloed, they're fragmented, different stakeholders are doing different things. So we're going to be talking a lot about how to, you know, minimize this fragmentation or duplication of efforts, inefficiencies, and gaps in service delivery. To create lasting change, all stakeholders, and that refers to everyone in this room, we all must work together to ensure that interventions not only align with the specific needs of women and girls, but that resources are effectively utilized and displaced women and girls are actually really empowered to rebuild their lives. So in this session, in summary, we will be looking at how to improve synergy, how to enhance accountability, and promote economic empowerment. All these are geared towards ensuring that IDP interventions are sustainable and impactful. Before we move on, I think I should swap with Dorcas so that I don't keep looking behind me. So you can have that seat, Dorcas. All right. So we're going to ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to start with Yusuf. But before then, if anyone has questions, you know, once we go through this, please note down your questions, and there'll be time for us to ask the panel questions. So let's start with you, Yusuf. How can we improve partnership and coordination among multi-stakeholders to accelerate, you know, what we've been saying about women and girls' health and well-being? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nikki. Good afternoon, everybody, once again. First, I would like to, congratulate the organizers and the partners that, make this happen. Now, especially that we are facing a lot of, stress and strain within our, within the development community. And, this really highlights the importance of looking inward, building partnerships and improving coordination to ensure that, we move the needle for, health of women and girls. So importantly, to go to your question, I think we have to look at certain characteristics when it comes to partnerships and coordination. An important characteristic is that these partnerships have to be, strategic. Who and who, is at the table? How relevant are they? What is the benefit for, each partner? So there has to be that shared, vision and common goal amongst the partners that are going to be, working. There has to be some advantages that they are also providing as well as getting, meaning in terms of results, for instance, there's something coming out of, that partnership and coordination. They also need to look at it long-term. It should be long-term focused. A lot of partnerships we see, project-based, but they should go beyond that and be, long-term focused. And lastly, on being strategic, is also to look at what is the complementarity in terms of what each partner is bringing to the table, because they have different experiences, different skills, different resources. So everybody can bring something to the table. Secondly, I would like to talk about inclusivity, and it cuts across different strata, different teams, and different areas. For example, if you look at who are those relevant entities that are in this partnership and coordination platforms. If you take government, for instance, even for health or in humanitarian situations, there are different government entities that could be on the table. Here today we've seen people from health, people from education, people from humanitarian affairs, amongst others. That's one section, because there are others. There could be civil society, there could be private sector, a constituency that we always forget, which is the academia and research institutions. They should also be at the table, depending on what you are targeting, to achieve. Beyond that, in terms of inclusivity, there also has to be, representation in terms of gender. How many women and girls are, on those platforms? Not just to participate, but to be, active in addressing issues that, concerns them. But beyond that, to also participate in leadership and decision-making roles. An important characteristic is that, partnerships have to also be built on sound evidence. It's important whether you're working in advocacy for policy changes, improving service delivery, or even investment for women and girls' health, to be based on, evidence. And that evidence is not just one-off. It needs to be updated constantly, because over time the landscape, shifts. And even within that partnership, there are different roles the partners could play in terms of what they bring to the table in terms of evidence. If I take FP 2030, for instance, we are known, to be a very good hub for data, but we don't do all the work ourselves. We have for example, Nigeria, sitting in the Federal Ministry of Health, a Track 20 and Avenue, personnel that does the data gathering, does some analysis. We take it, socialize it with, civil society organizations and what have you. Next is, to be clear about roles, mandates, and authorities. Partnerships are usually, a platform of equals, but then there needs to be some form of leadership in terms of promoting understanding of, each other's roles and responsibilities, so that, each partner will be accountable there will be better utilization of resources, and we avoid duplication of efforts. Strong communication and information sharing is also important. Over time, we've seen partnerships where everybody is holding to their data, to their activities, to more or less not even a partnership. So there has to be that strong communication and information sharing. Capacity building and resource mobilization, it's important. We're talking about sustainability, meaning resources have to be replenished over time. But partners need to also invest in building capacities of the members and entities that are within those partnerships and coordination platform. They need to be invested in terms of human resources and material resources. Of course, there has to be a learning agenda. You need to look back and see what has worked, where failures are, and learn from it, as well as be able to do better next time, as well as promotion of the development and implementation of innovative approaches to women's health and well-being. Second to the last is ensuring, importantly, having that political backing, be it at any level, whether it's government or at community level, globally. It is important to have that political will. Lastly, I think over a very long time, we have been discussing in echo chambers, talking to ourselves, all the time. Partnerships need to go beyond that. We need to come out of that and talk to, so many others, especially non-traditional, partners that we need to move forward with. An example is on a campaign that we're starting, FP 2030. We recently, and I'm happy Nigeria Health Watch was here, they were, using art to, sound the voice of, challenges of women's health and well-being, which is very important. For our Made Possible by Family Planning campaign, we're looking at things like that, working with, non-traditional partners to also be voices for, family planning. We're looking at people in the arts, we're looking at people in fashion, and what have you, because the target for the campaign is to raise about $1 billion, and traditionally within the health sector, we might not be able to pull that. We need to bring in, people that are non-traditional family planning or health, partners. So it's important to, also look beyond family planning or health and engage other non-traditional partners. Those are some of the ways that I think partnerships and coordination platforms could be very effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Yusuf. Thank you. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Thank you. Some things stood out for me. The first was when you talked about the shared vision, really, and that's so critical in when you bring multi-partners together. It's important to be saying the same language, to have the same focus and move towards the same place. And, I was glad when you started touching on inclusivity, but I think where you ended really was one of the biggest places for me in terms of making sure that we're bringing on board the non-traditional partners. Because often we find ourselves in this, many of us have worked in this space for years, we find ourselves in the same room, we're speaking to the same people, we need to expand partnerships. And the times we are in now really calls for re-strategizing in expanding partnerships. And I'm so glad you're the second person that talked about fashion designers this afternoon. Earlier on during the remarks, I think from IOM, she also mentioned about fashion designers. So, these are things to get us thinking about non-traditional partners. Thank you very much, Yusuf. All right, so we'll move on to Dr. Aminu Magashi from the Africa Health Budget Network. Yeah, so, like I said, we're really living in unprecedented times, and this conversation is very timely. So, the question we'd like you to share with us is that in the face of the dwindling resources globally, how do we enhance coordinated efforts? This effort should be geared towards domestic resource mobilization. And when we talk about domestic resource mobilization, we want to also look at, how are we tracking the release of these resources and the appropriation of these resources for humanitarian interventions. Over to you, Dr. Magashi. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for this question. So, the humanitarian response, anytime we mention humanitarian, there's always the emergency side of humanitarian. It means we need to plan to be able to respond to any humanitarian challenges, because humanitarian challenges do not come with any warning sign. Sometimes it just happens. So that means we need to actually, plan for that and also prepare. And I'll give some example of some humanitarian challenges. For example, in the IDP, there could be outbreaks of infection, within the IDP due to some maybe water, sanitation, and hygiene challenges. If there's no, borehole, if there's no, pipe-borne water, there's a tendency for outbreak of infection, cholera, and some other things. There could be some, sexual, challenges also in the IDP. There could be some educational challenges. There could be some health issue, immunization for our children, issue of, severe malnutrition, or there could be physical assault. There could be some, collapse of buildings. These are all, humanitarian issue. It means we need to plan. So in trying to have a coordinated, a domestic resource mobilization, we also look at it from two sides of the coin, the government and the community and the people. So I'm happy to inform the audience that even though I'm based in Abuja, but I also advise, Kano State government, that's my state, as a technical advisor on humanitarian affairs and poverty alleviation. So within that technical advisory role, I advise the Kano State government to establish a humanitarian intervention trust fund. So this is part of the conversation we're having today. How do we mobilize, domestic resource mobilization? So in Kano, we already put it in the annual budget, for 2025, that the Kano State should establish a legal framework to have an intervention, trust fund for humanitarian services. And the coordination is to ensure that government, philanthropists, NGOs, the community come together to finance the trust fund. So it's not only government, the business. Domestic resource mobilization goes beyond government. So what we are proposing in that, legal framework is that from the internally generated revenue, from the Kano State, is to commit some small amount of money that will be coming every month, from the earmark taxation, from the government, to make it a sustainable contribution. Then support from grants, from the donor partners, and also from NGOs, and a lot of billionaires in the state who are running airline services, who are running businesses. They should also make a contribution to a coordinated domestic resource mobilization. So this could be, a model that we could bring to a national level. Also, we could have a social protection fund, which is also another, trust fund we are also promoting in the state, to see that vulnerable people, including IDP, they are also protected. If there's any emergency, there's a pot of funding that they can actually respond to. On the other side also, apart from having a government-led intervention, we could also have an NGO-led trust fund. And we have examples also I can bring, Skill Cell Trust Fund, Cancer Support Trust Fund. We have actually developed those trust funds in Kano for the, the last, 5-7 years, managed by NGOs successfully. Small money, but it's coming, in a smaller bills, but it's sustained. So I really want to, encourage my sisters as well. Let's explore, creating a coordinated, intervention humanitarian within the CSO space. It's a small bills, but if we can do it every month, make a contribution, then the pot of fund will grow, it becomes sustainable, and if there's any emergency, then that money can be deployed, to address the support. And also in tracking the money, there has to be the sincerity that this money is not for administrative running cost. This money is not for personnel. This money is not for procuring vehicle. This money is for humanitarian response. So that sincerity needs to be there. The accountability, the transparency, the openness of the government to work with the stakeholders to ensure that if there's any government-led trust fund for humanitarian, it should be managed by a community of board of trustees who are not interested in the money, but are interested in managing the money, for the IDP and the people of Nigeria. I think if we can do that, we can track the money very well. We can also improve the services, and if there's any emergency anywhere in the IDP, there's money to deploy. So we look forward for more discussion, how to work together. I really look forward that we should have a humanitarian intervention fund at the national level, where the CSO working with the government and everybody here to really make it work. And also it's something we can do, we can deliver, and all our IDPs could have something to use when there's any emergency. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we give Dr. Magashi a round of applause, please? Thank you. And thanks for sharing your experience from Kano. I think it's really interesting that there's a humanitarian intervention trust fund. And one thing that we've heard a lot of in this conference this morning is actually that this is beyond conversations. We want to take action. So we want to move from conversations to actions. And I'm hoping that this is something, like you said, that can move from Kano State to what we're doing at the national level. And, thanks for all those other examples as well. The Social Protection Fund, how the NGOs are coming together to work together. Earlier on when I said we're all stakeholders in this room, there's a role for everyone to play in resource mobilization, and also, ensuring that those funds are judiciously used, well managed, we're tracking it, we're playing our role to ensure accountability and transparency. Thanks again, Dr. Magashi. So this time around, I'm going to move this way and come to Dorcas. So Dorcas, we would love to hear your experience as a development partner. We know the Challenge Initiative is in a number of states across Nigeria. And how do partners like TCI collaborate with government to synergize efforts for sustainable sexual reproductive health rights interventions for women and girls, particularly those in conflict setting? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Kemi, for this question, and congratulations once again to Stand With The Girls initiative. So I think somehow we've discussed a lot this morning about how implementing partners like TCI are supporting, providing in the provision of sexual and reproductive health and rights services to girls and women in the IDP camps or the conflict or humanitarian setting. So first of all, from when I came in to now, I've heard a lot about funding and funding and funding. So funding is first thing first. Like when it happens, what next? Somebody needs to get to the communities to address or provide immediate service. That's why the second speaker talked about the emergency response, because most time it's an emergency, so you need to go in and provide the services. And when it is emergency, it means funding needs to be allocated, funding needs to be somewhere, and some funding needs to be provided to provide these services. First of all, to move them to a safe place, and then second of all, to ensure that that safe place have all the services that they were having in the communities, even if it's not going to be a full range of the services, but some form of those services in those communities that are makeshift for them. So what TCI is currently doing is TCI is partnering with 22 states in Nigeria, and some of these states are in the northeastern and also northwestern states of Nigeria and north central states, where these states are mostly hit by this conflict. So we're in Yobe, we're in Borno State, We're in Adamawa State, in the northeastern state. So what are we doing in those states? In those states, we partner with the government to ensure that government understands what is needed, particularly in terms of providing services for women and girls. And sometimes I am pushed to act for also boys, because they need the services. If you're thinking of anything that is happening, particularly when it comes to sexual and reproductive health, and we talked about maybe unintended pregnancy and what have you. I was in one of the IDP camps in Adamawa State, and I interviewed like 2 girls that were impregnated in the IDP camps. And you will ask yourself this question: so how did they get pregnant? Definitely they got pregnant in the camp and by a boy or a man, you know. So some of this program, as much as we push for the program and we're centered on the girl and the man and the woman, it will also be nice to also put some kind of an eye on the boys and also on the men in these communities. So what are we doing? I say, first of all, we partner with the government to provide support in terms of capacity building. So the capacity building is not just for government providers, but also for non-state actors. Because as much as you're looking at the state actors, those are government, whether they're directors in the ministries, whether they are, you know, humanitarian response it cut across sectors. So whether you're looking at the health, you're looking at education, you're looking at women affairs, but you're looking at those managers that are at the system level, the providers at the facility levels or the community level, and also the non-state actors. And the non-state actors are the religious leaders, the community leaders, the magaji, you know, all those people that you need to get them to get into the community. So we provide capacity building for them and ensure that, for me, whatever services are being provided in those settings, the common denominator of this service is the psychosocial services. Because even if you're providing education service and you think you provide education service the way you provide education service to any other person, it won't work. Because you're dealing with somebody that's already traumatized. So the person needs to understand the psychological need of that person first before providing whatever service, whether it's education, whether it's health, or whether it's economic empowerment. So that's one of it. The second part of it is we also do a little bit of some research. So before we went into the northeastern state, we had to do a gender kind of an analysis to understand some of the gender barriers and gender consideration that we need to put into the programming. And particularly because you might think that the gender barriers and the gender consideration is across both all the communities, but it differs in some of those host communities where the IDPs are, or even in the IDP communities. So that we also will do, we have done, and we're also doing. And we use the findings to like a kind of help to guide the state government to design programs that will both meet the need partners are concerned. It would be also nice for development partners to like a kind of go. It's no longer, I won't say that conflict and emergency are new things to us. It seems as if we have gone past the stage of emergency to, I want to believe we should be looking at the stage of what are the systems that we have in place as a government, as a people, that we can use to like a kind of program for when these things happen, implement when this thing happens. At least let this program or let this system have like a kind of a package of all the services that is needed. So when it happens in this community, what services are we supposed to be giving or rolling to those communities? I think things like that need to really come in. And then lastly, what are our integration approach? Because by the time everything is settled, these people need to go back to the communities. So how are we integrating them? And when we're integrating them, what services are we putting in place in those communities that will ensure that they are well integrated into the community and they get their lives back? Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Dorcas. Thank you, Dorcas, and thanks for that passionate sharing. Okay, so a couple of things stood out from Dorcas's presentation, the partnership with government, but I like the call as well that, you know, in as much as we're focusing on women and girls, and it's always important, we shouldn't leave behind the boys and the men in the conversation, because they're really part of this ecosystem. I also love the call out about the non-state actors, our religious leaders, our traditional leaders, who all play a key role. But lastly, I know, you know,